Sending a text to your users sounds simple until you actually try to build it. Let's break it down. First off, if you actually want to send an SMS, well, in the US, that means 10 DLC registration, carrier campaign approvals, days of waiting. Every single other country, they all have their own regulations that you now have to manage. And then you realize, well, SMS is actually the expensive channel, when in reality, it's likely that more than half your users are actually using WhatsApp. And well, WhatsApp is way more cost effective. And we haven't even talked about rich communication services, or lots of people know it as RCS. That's basically the fancy word for a SMS that looks like a WhatsApp. Once again, another integration. So now you're maintaining 3 different channels, writing your own routing and retry logic. You can see where things start to stack up. This then involves you writing tons of different webhooks to answer one simple question. Did that message land? So today I'm going to show you how you can avoid that entire nightmare by using one simple API. And it's from a company known as Sent.dm. It's simply one call, and then Sent picks the channel, WhatsApp, SMS, or RCS, and they then handle everything after the send, including carrier routing, formatting, fallbacks, compliance. Your code stays exactly the same regardless of what channel you select. And the platform is very smart. You see, every single message that is sent through Sent.dm runs through an intelligent decision engine. It does this all in less than 100 milliseconds, and it checks a couple of things. Number one, channel availability. So things like WhatsApp registration. Is my user even registered on WhatsApp? SMS support, regional rules, carrier status. They handle that stuff. Number two, cost and performance. So we're talking real-time pricing, success rates, contract terms, engagement metrics. Again, they handle all of that for us. And number three, the overall context. What type of message was sent? How urgent is it? What's the recipient's typical behavior? Or what time of day and where in the world are we sending this message? And all of this comes together to make life simple for you. And it translates to one thing. Your message gets delivered to the recipient on the best channel and at the lowest cost automatically. And today, I've created an entire demo app to prove just how simple this is to use. We'll use the Sent SDK to deliver a real message to a real phone, and we'll watch the state of that message go from queued to sent to delivered, and even read, all from the web app in real time. And before we begin, I do want to give a big shout out to the guys over at Sent.dm for sponsoring this video. I personally have had this nightmare of setting things up all by myself and messages failing to go through. So when I discovered Sent.dm, it was actually a breeze, and I was the one that reached out to them. And because of them, I've now personally migrated 3 of my own projects into using Sent.dm's platform. And let me tell you, it's a damn lifesaver. So if that sounds good, smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Let's jump into it. So we're back at the desk. Let's go ahead and dive in, and I'll show you just how easy it is to get Sent.dm set up. So the first thing I want you guys to do is I actually prepared an entire demo for you all. So you can go to the link in the description and actually find this GitHub repo. It's public and it has everything that you need inside of it. So you can scroll down. I've included a ton of instructions. Now this one is actually using Convex, which is free as the backend. You can use just Next.js. However, I've used Convex here because getting it set up is all through the agent if you go this route. And it works really nicely with the webhook without needing to deploy to Vercel. So you can do it all while you're still on dev. But I'm going to go ahead and jump into a demo of this. So I want you to simply go ahead and git clone this. I've already actually done that. So you can build this however you want, whether you're using Claude Code, Codex, whatever it is. The reason why I'm going to show you in Cursor today is because I'm going to show you snippets of the code, which is going to teach you a lot more than just showing you an agent run something. So the first thing I want to highlight to you guys is if you open up your environment example file, we actually need to switch out these over here, okay? So I'll show you how we can get this one afterwards, which is actually the SMS or WhatsApp template that we're going to send. But here's an example of mine already prepared. So I've got the 3 variables here. One is our API key, one is our webhook secret, and one is our parcel template ID. And then we have our Convex environment variables here. And again, this is optional really. If you do want to build it yourself, you can actually just carry on building with Sent.dm, get your agent to go ahead and build it for you without Convex. So to run this app, we simply run pm dev once our environment variables are in. But let's go ahead and show you how you can get those variables first. So the first thing you need to do is go to the first link in the description, sign up to sent.dm. It is free to go ahead and get started. So go ahead and register an account. And then once you're done, follow the sign up steps and you'll reach a dashboard. Now, once you've come to this page, I want you to head over to API keys. And this is where we're going to go ahead and get our API key. So you can simply go ahead and click on add API key, and then you'll get your key over here. And once we have got our webhook set up as well, this is effectively where we're going to get it from. I'll show you how we can all set this all up in a minute, but effectively this is where it's going to be stored. So you can see your signing secret is here, and that would be the other part of your environment variable right here, okay? And the final one, the template ID, you'll be able to find over inside of templates. So this is where you're going to create a template ID. So I've got 2 here. I've got one for a course waitlist example and one for a live delivery tracking app. If we click into this one, you can actually see the template ID up here, okay? So you want to go ahead and copy that one, and this is going to be the one that we're going to use for the example. So Sent.dm parcel template. All right. Now, of course, yours is going to be different to mine, and you're going to go ahead and have to set this up. But I've included everything inside of the README. So if you open up the README file, you can actually see an entire breakdown of everything that we have, including some prompts to go ahead and get you set up inside of demo setup MD. Right, so it's going to go ahead and run you through everything, but let's go ahead and jump into the demo so I can showcase how this all comes together. But as you can see, they support multi-channel, SMS, WhatsApp, including how buttons get rendered on the WhatsApp message. And as you can see, this is the demo I prepared. So we've got two tabs, demo and playground, and I want you to pay attention to, let's just go through the demo right now. Now I have my actual phone right here, and we're going to do this live together. Okay, so in this case I've created a Swift route delivery driver tracking system. Okay, so imagine your driver has 6 stops, right? So I'm going to go ahead and just clear the session log, and effectively we just put in a number here, and I've already got my saved contacts here as well. So as soon as you enter your first number, this demo will automatically save it, and this is using the send.dm contacts feature. Okay, so you can actually have contacts, and if you reuse a existing contact, it actually learns the deliverability methods for that contact, and it learns over time what delivered well, what didn't, so it can optimize the channels to send to, which I thought was really cool. But in this case, I've got 2 phones here, so I'm going to go ahead and send to my Dubai number. And then here we can see, okay, let's say I'm a delivery driver. I'm going to start the delivery on this package. So I'm going to toggle off the sandbox, and I'm going to click start delivery. Okay. And notice how my channel is auto. Now, a few things just happened. The first thing was you saw live tracking changed on the right hand side. Okay. So at this point in time, we have live delivery tracking. And right now on my phone, I've just got a new message come onto the screen. Excuse Kenji. And as you can see, the parcel has now been out for delivery. Now, as you can see, this WhatsApp message is rich. It has a couple of things to it. It has a button, a footer, and you can also set a header. And these are all customizable. Sent used its intelligent engine to go ahead and derive which one would be best to send to. And in this case, WhatsApp is a lot cheaper, so this is awesome, okay? Now pay attention to this delivered state, right? So as you can see over here, it actually has red on that one because I opened it. Now I'm gonna open this in real time in front of you guys, and I'm gonna have both side by side. But as we can see here, it says that it was delivered. So I'm gonna tap this to open it, and let's go ahead and see. And as you can see on the screen now, in real time without a refresh, it is now triggered to red. Okay, the second I opened it. That's very cool. Okay, so that happened because it got sent to WhatsApp, and then we opened the message that triggered off a webhook that hits sent DM, and then we are listening to that webhook via a Convex backend. And that could be listening through a Next.js, typical route handler, whatever you want to do. But I've set up with a Convex Cloud function. Okay, so in this case, you can run through each one, and then you can go ahead and do different deliveries and so forth. Now, if you want to try out an SMS, we can go to the playground. Okay, so in this case, I can select a number. This time, let's try my UK number. Then I'm going to go ahead and select an appropriate template. So these 2 templates have been approved. So I've got my live delivery tracking, which we just went ahead and tested over here. And then I've got my course waitlist access over here as well. Okay. And then I've actually given you the chance here to change the channels in this demo. Okay. So we can do WhatsApp only, and you can notice how the WhatsApp channel is what it changes. Okay. And in this case, we change the channel simply to SMS. But if we don't include a channel, then it goes to the automatic. And if you want to explicitly do it as well, you can also pass, instead of passing like WhatsApp or SMS, you can just pass in sent. Okay, so you can either omit it or you can pass in sent. And in this case, that would mean that sent picks the channel based on what the best performance would be. Okay, and then everything else, including, like I mentioned before, carrier routing, formatting, fallbacks, compliance, everything's handled for us. Okay, so if this message was to fail, it would go ahead and basically do the retry mechanism for us. So in this case, let's do something new. We're going to do SMS only, and I'm going to change this to be Sunny123, and I'm going to put my email in, okay? And I'm going to toggle off sandbox because I want it to actually send, and I'm going to go ahead and click on send messages. And when I do, pay attention to this right-hand side of the screen, and I'm also going to show my phone at the same time, okay? So I'm going to click on send message right now, send message. And as we can see, in a second, I should get a text message. So it just said delivered, and as we can see, boom, I just got a text, okay? So I'm gonna tap that right now so you guys can see it. And there we have it. Look at that, guys. It says, hi Sunny123 with my email address and the rest of the template, okay? Now I'm gonna send the same message through automatic. So in this case, I'm gonna go ahead and do automatic this time, send message. And as we can see, the channel was auto, but you see how it toggled? It went from auto to WhatsApp. That's because it was able to determine that WhatsApp would be better here. And now I open that message. And as you can see, the WhatsApp message from the same bit of code has now got more rich formatting. So now we have, look at that, we have an actual button that we can click. We also have a footer. We also have a rich link that's previewed. And that is a lot more accessible for a user if they were to get that as well. And notice how here, I've actually gone ahead and shown a different footer here. So it says this link will expire in 48 hours. So that's really awesome, okay? And I'm gonna show you the code that actually makes all of that possible. So you'll be amazed at how simple it is to go ahead and implement this. Let's head over to the code, and this is where the magic happens. So it's this block right here. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. And basically, everything else is more so the front end and what we pass in. But effectively, we just go ahead and we initialize a sent client. So this is basically, we initialize it with an API key. We set the default number of max retries, default timeout, and also if we want to handle logging. So in this case, in local, I want to handle some logging. And then we can go back and then we use it. So basically, in this case, I'm using the TypeScript SDK, and we basically will call await client messages send and a request object. And then you can pass in another optional parameter, right? So in this case, you saw how when I initialized it, I set it up with a max retries of 10. So in this case, if you did want to adjust anything else, you can do a bunch of stuff over here as well, okay? So you can go ahead and change that if you want. In this case, the max retries is already at 10, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Now, when we send this, inside the request here, you can see, I've just separated it to make it a bit easier here. But we have a few things. We have the number that we're going to send to. We have the template. This is the ID and the parameters. Now this all comes back to, remember the dashboard that I showed you previously? So in this case, this is the template for the delivery tracking, right? If we come down here, we have the template ID. So we go over here, the template ID, and then the parameters. Now the parameters are basically going to be determined by the dynamic variables that we have here. So when you go ahead and design a template, you can actually customize this as much as you want. So you can see that we have a footer here, we have buttons, we can also do headers as well, right? And it shows you what channel that will appear on if you go ahead and customize it. So it's very, very easy, guys. You just need to go ahead and select a category. So this could be like marketing, utility, and so forth. And then you can go ahead and customize it. And in this case, I've made it multi-channel, right? You can preview how each one will look, and then you can go ahead and carry on. So this is really nice because you don't have to mess around with different settings for different things. It's just one nice clean dashboard to handle everything. And then we get our previews on the right? If we click on code examples right here, you can see a couple of code requests. So I can go ahead and just swipe across or click on TypeScript, for example. And then I can actually see a code snippet that I can just copy and use and test out right away, right? So in this case, we can see like the client is initialized, and we've already showed you that with R1. And then client messages send, channel sent, right? So again, some examples show sent, or you could just omit this entirely. And then the template parameters. And then of course, in this case, look at the parameters, the text and the parcel, right? So if we look over here, this is the text and the parcel is actually over here. So we can actually see, look, sample value for parcel. And this is a dynamic value. And we've actually set this over here. Inside of the actual URL, I've got a parcel dynamic value that looks something like this. And then we pass in a preview value just to help it get approved. And this is basically how it's going to go ahead and get through. Okay, so this is really, really cool. This connects to actual Meta's dashboard, so you can go ahead and check that out as well. Now, setting things up is really simple. You actually first have to set up a sender profile. So I've already created a sender profile here. But if you haven't got this, your first thing would actually be, you'll get prompted with a screen similar to this. You'd simply go ahead, fill this out, and then you'll be able to go ahead and get things running. Now, every single step will guide you along the way, like I mentioned before, right? And even before you do this, you can actually go ahead and do their light onboarding option. So you can actually test out a couple of pre-ready templates for you, right? They even have some really nice samples here. So if I was to change the language over here to English, for example, I can actually see a couple of nice little templates, right? And remember, there are different ones. There's like utility, authentication, marketing, and this helps with compliance and getting it across the line, right? So here we can see, look, how it's going to appear on different devices, for example, or different screens. And you can go ahead and basically use this sample to kickstart creating a new template. They also have a nice playground, contacts as well. So in this case, I can go ahead and select, for example, live tracking. I can go ahead and choose which channel effectively. And then remember those previews come through here. And then I can go ahead and do the same thing. I can go ahead and say something like, this is a test, and then I can say package 123, and then I can see both previews. So look at that. Hi Sunny, hi there, this is a test. Tap below, blah, blah, blah. And select a contact and then click on send message. And then I can actually see a full activity breakdown on the right hand side over here. And in this case, you saw on the top right, the status changed dynamically. Okay, and it also determined the channel to send to, and I just simply clicked on the default routing. And as you can see, this one didn't actually charge me. Okay, so I'll show you the breakdown of the timeline over here. You guys can see for yourselves. Messages start off as queued, they're then processed, routed, sent, and delivered. And of course, if any failure happens here, all that retry logic happens for us, which is absolutely awesome. Now, what's really cool is the first time you send to a new number, it actually automatically gets added to the contacts over here. And then what happens is it starts to basically build a profile about the channel types that are available to send to, and also the default channel. So that way in the future, it would be simpler and more efficient to go ahead and send another message to that user. Now, if you get stuck at any point, just head over to email support, email them. They're very quick at getting back to you. And then of course, if you want to see more information about your dashboard, you simply head back over to overview. Now, how do we actually build this from scratch? Let's go ahead and show you the easiest way to do this, right? Because it's going to blow you away. So the first thing, if you ever lose your bearings, you don't know where to start, head over to literally the landing page, sent.dm, and you can go to developers at the top, and you've got a couple of useful things, okay? You've got API reference, SDKs, and so forth. So let's go over to the SDKs. At the top, you'll see this right here, right? mcp.sent.dm. And this is the starting point that I recommend you do, okay? So at this point, we can go ahead and literally install this onto any of our favorite agents, whether it be Claude Desktop, Claude Code, Cursor, VS Code, whatever it is. So I'm going to show you now how to do it inside of a totally separate environment. So that way it's completely fresh. You guys can see it from scratch. So I'm going to open up Claude Code, and then I'm going to head over to the directory that we want to work in. Now, currently we don't have an app to work in. So I'm going to go ahead and actually create a new app right now. So for this demo, I'm going to go ahead and do pm create next app latest sent delivery demo. Okay, so we're going to build a delivery driver demo. Okay, so in this case, I'm just going to say use recommended settings for now. That's easy. But because we're recording, I'm going to go ahead and use the Claude Code desktop app. Now, okay, so now once that's done, you want to go ahead and cd into the directory. So I'm going to go ahead and say cd sent delivery demo, and then I'm simply going to do Claude. Okay, and then trust this folder, yes. And now we set things up. So I want to go ahead and firstly add in the MCP, and the easiest way is we can either do each or, right? But I'm just going to do it through the CLI first, and then just get it set up because I prefer to do it this way. We're going to go ahead and add this into the project. There's an issue with the selected model. Oh, I'm actually on Fable 5. I was using that before it got banned. In this case, we're going to swap the model. I'm going to swap it back to Opus. Yep. And then we're going to go ahead and paste that in again. But actually, I need to exit Claude Code first. And then we're just going to Claude MCP add. I added that to our project, and then I hop back into it and go ahead and configure it. Now, in order to configure it, you can do it if you're using the CLI. Using the desktop is very simple, but here we can simply do /MCP. I can head over to Sent, and I've already authenticated mine. But if you haven't, you just simply head over to it using the arrow keys and then authenticate. Okay, and it'll pop up, and you can just authenticate it. Very easy to do. Now, once that's done, I can close this one, because we've already got our app working now. Then I'm going to select the demo that we just created, open it up, and now we can get started. So there's a few ways that you can actually go about this now. Because we added in the Sent.dm MCP, it now has access to all of these different tools, okay? So in this case, it's got access to the messaging, the contacts, the lookup analytics, as well as templates. And it can even use the API on top of this to go ahead and actually create templates for us, right? So in this case, you can go ahead, and we've already done the authentication, but this is an amazing starting point because now it's able to go ahead and act on our behalf effectively as we're logged into Sent.dm. And then we just simply need to describe our problem to Claude Code. I want to go ahead and build a delivery demo app where we use sent.dm to send our user the text messages and WhatsApp messages when they have a delivery. This is going to be actually for the driver, so that way the driver can send messages to the customers as they're coming to deliver their parcels. Okay, and then what I tend to like to do to make sure it uses the MCP is I will go ahead and include the following. Make sure to use the sent.dm MCP installed, and also all of the sent.dm documentation on the website. Do not guess anything. Always use the latest documentation when working on this. Okay, so in this case, we can go ahead and do the following. Now, I also noticed that sometimes it's sent.dm MCP, so I'll go ahead and double check a few things like that. And then you want to switch over to plan mode. Okay, so I'll go ahead and start that off. Then in the background, what I like to do, well, now where we have all of this documentation, you can first give it a read for yourself, because yes, even though AI agent is building, I highly recommend you go ahead and actually use the documentation yourself to understand what it is actually doing. For example, initializing the client, sending the first message, authentication, and so forth. And again, you guys can see for yourself, it's literally just this. You initialize, it tries to use this by default, and then you just make a very simple call, okay? But more importantly, once you've set things up, you need to create a template for this to even work in the first place, okay? So while it's building a plan in the background, we're gonna go ahead and show you how to go ahead and build a template. So head back over to dashboard, go to templates, and then we're gonna go ahead and actually create a sample one, okay? So I'm gonna take a sample over here. Let's go ahead and do, for example, English. And then it's like, hi, your order is on its way and should arrive soon, estimated delivery. This is quite cool. Let's do this one, okay? So let's click on use sample. And then in this case, it's already pre-filled a couple of things like the category, for example. You can also do auto selector, but in this case, we know it's utility, right? For the header, we could say your order is on the way, right? And then over here, we could say, for example, hi, Sunny, your order 357, for example, is on the way and should arrive soon. Estimated delivery with a bit of text. Okay, and this is a really nice preview. Hi, John, your order number and estimated delivery between 1 and 4. Right, so variables can't be at the start or end of the template. So here we could actually just say something like check your order details online for more information. And notice how I haven't done multi-channel here, right? So enable message body for specific channels. I've just included it in one body over here, but that doesn't mean that it's not included in both. You can see what it does is for WhatsApp, it's able to include all of that in one message, but for SMS, it will split it into two. And this is really important because it helps you understand, okay, maybe I need to actually shrink this. So we could, for example, maybe change this to check order details online for more info, right? And then that's more of a chance they will actually fit into both. And if I did want to go ahead and make it, really well built out on WhatsApp, for example, then I can simply go ahead and do multi-channel if I wanted. But you can see, look, the header is going for SMS, it's going to include all it can include. But for WhatsApp, it will include all of the rich stuff like your order is on the way, right? Same for footer in this case. So like an adult must be home to accept this package, as well as buttons. And here we've got visit website, track order already, and static versus dynamic. So if we do dynamic here, you can see we can actually have a variable such as this. All you got to do is the curly bracket syntax. And then, for example, we could have something like HTTPS. And let's just say I did, for example, my own website, paparia.com/order/ something like this. It could be order ID, right? So it could be something like order ID. And now it will say, give me a sample value for that order ID. And I could say, for example, it would be like, let's say parcel number, package 97 or 981, right? So that's basically how we would go ahead and define this. Now, what's really cool is that I've just gone ahead and done this, right? This is one example of doing this, and we can submit this for review, right? So we can submit this for a review, and then basically it goes and handles the compliance checks, submits it to Meta on WhatsApp, goes ahead and makes sure that all the places that we want to send to are going to go ahead and get covered. So in this case, you can see now it's pending, right? So this actually tends to be very quick. So you shouldn't have to wait too long for this to go ahead and go through. Now, I actually made a little mistake here. For the variables, I actually should have changed these. So here we have hi, and then this could be, for example, the variable, the name. So it should be, for example, name, and then example, John, and then your order, and then this one should be order number, for example. And then text could be delivery message. Okay, and this is quite important, right? So you would want to go ahead and do that and then resubmit. Now, the one thing I actually forgot to show there is when you do go ahead and actually create a sample. So let's go back into another sample here. For example, this one, you see how here we should have actually clicked on these variable names. So the actual individual variables should have the correct names here. So if it was like hi name, your delivery update address has been successfully updated to, we can say new address, update variable, and also contact. And then this one could be, for example, support number. Because it's an email, we can just say support email, update variable. And then if we were to submit this one for a review, well, we have to fix our footer here. Here we are. We could say new address has been updated. Okay. And then you can even add like a header saying update successful if you really wanted to, like update success. Update successful, right? And submit for review. And now the really cool part is that once we submit this, it'll give us a code example here. So I'm just going to show you a snippet of that so you can go ahead and use that. So if we head down, you can see code example, click on TypeScript. If I go down, we can see the channel that to send to, the template with the ID, and then the parameters and how it will get passed through. Okay, so this will be equivalent for all the parameters, so the ones that you have here as well as the ones on the button. And that's effectively how you pass in your parameters. So it's so easy to go ahead and use it and send it. And you guys can see, you just send one snippet of code and it effectively handles everything else for us. So I really want to draw your attention to this tab over here, channels. So in channels, you can see we have our sender ID, our WhatsApp settings, where you can go ahead and check on your status. And then inside of here, also all of the countries that we have currently got permission to send to, right? It's so easy as well. You just simply click on add country and you can select from a ton. And they have support for a ton of them, okay? Now, this will basically handle all of the compliance, the sending, the routing, the configuration logic, everything for us. Okay, so we're gonna check on our app over here. And the first thing that we can see is it actually was able to pull our account information. So this is perfect. You can see it's an approved ready to use template already exists, live delivery tracking, and it found the approved one, which is great, right? And then it's basically gonna go ahead and look at the message content, how it's gonna go ahead and use it, and then it's gonna derive a plan from this. Now, what's really cool about this is just from having the MCP and telling it to look at the documentation, you can see that it found out that sent.dm requires predefined templates. You cannot send free text. This shapes the whole design. And now it's actually drafting out an entire plan for us. Basically, as you can see here, it actually ran a little agent to do a bit of research and check out the documentation, found out what it needed to, and now it's going to go ahead and from all of this information at the different statuses, everything is basically handled for us. Okay, so this is really, really nice. One thing I would also recommend you do here to go ahead and get this set up a bit quicker as well. And look, you can even see here, that's awesome, right? I would highly recommend you also tell it to look at creating webhooks for you as well, okay? So it's asked us two questions. How should delivery data be stored for this demo? In this case, we could just say seeded in memory as it's a demo. Use the approved live delivery tracking. Yep. And then editable in the UI. Each mock delivery has an editable phone field or seed deliveries with my number. Let's just do an editable UI field. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and fast forward and come back when the plan is ready. Okay, so we're back and now the plan has been complete. Let's take a look. So we want to make sure that it covers sending a message, number one, and number two, mainly as well the webhook. So in this case, we've got the templates as well. And of course, it was using my current template. So we could actually have used the one that we went ahead and sent for approval, which by the way, came back in the time that this was actually planning. So like I said, it only takes about 30 minutes to an hour often that I've found. Okay, so after reviewing everything looks pretty good. The only thing that I would add in here at this point is I would go ahead and ensure that the webhooks are also done. I want you to go ahead and also set up the webhooks as part of this plan. Check out the documentation and make sure you understand how to add it inside of Next.js. And this is basically going to go ahead and prepare a plan for implementing everything. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and actually run this build, otherwise we're just going to burn through credits. I'm instead going to show you how the webhooks handle on the demo that I've given you the code for. So in the background, like I showed you before, the main thing that we actually need to pay attention to is client.messages.send. And then of course, when it comes to webhooks, because in the demo, we're actually using Convex, the way that Convex does it is very, very simple. It basically will go ahead and we have a HTTP file. If you're using Next.js, you'll be using route handlers. But inside of Convex, you basically define your post and get endpoints inside of this HTTP file. In this case, this one will be /webhooks/sent. Now, this one just gets appended to the end of our Convex site. Okay, so this is free to set up, by the way, and I'd recommend if you are using Convex, then just install the Convex CLI or go to the README and I have all of the instructions inside of here for you to follow, right? And you can actually just go ahead and give your agent the README and say, follow the entire setup and get the demo working for me. And it will actually do the entire thing. I done a little dummy run earlier. Okay, so when we send a webhook, the number one thing we need to know is that it's actually from Sent. So you actually run it through something called a signature check. And there's a couple of ways to run this, but in this case, in this test, I've actually done it for you here. And we're basically making sure that the signature matches the one that is actually from Sent. And we do that by using that webhook secret that we set earlier. Remember, we actually had this webhook secret over here earlier. This is where we actually go ahead and check against it, okay? So you can check out the code for this, but effectively you just want to make sure you check that. And this is actually how we know those real-time changes that happen. The reason why on the front end we can see it is one, because Convex is real-time by default. So it was actually just reflecting on the front end, but also B is that whenever that webhook was getting hit, it was actually going ahead and updating the database through that HTTP endpoint. So if I go over to webhooks, all you would have to do is if you deployed your endpoint, so in this case, mine would be /webhooks/sent. If you are following the Convex demo, then you'll have whatever your beginning of your endpoint is, and then /webhooks/sent, and then you'll get your signing secret over here. Okay. Let's just take a look at this. So you can see all of the different states of a message are put through here. Right, so we have to start off, we have queued, routed, sent, delivered, and then read. Okay, so these are effectively the main ones which we are looking for. When you set it up, you're actually going to go ahead and just select which events you actually want. So in this case, once you've set up your webhook handler, all you need to do, toggle the events, and you can also listen to templates as well. In this case, we just want to mainly do for messages here. And this is really handy because now if anything happens with our messages, we, from this webhook, again, a single webhook, regardless of the channel that it's sent on, will go ahead and get the update sent over to our database. And this is the way that I'd really recommend it. And you can also test your webhook as well and rotate your signing secret if you need to from here. Okay, so this is effectively how you do it. And of course, you can actually dive into these and have a look. So you can actually see the entire body, see the payload, the channel that it was sent on, the status that it's updating for. So in this case, we can say delivered status and so forth. And then, of course, update your backend accordingly. Now, this by far has been the easiest implementation for SMS, WhatsApp I have ever come across. From setting it up to going ahead and getting the code working, everything is effectively done for you. Honestly, the code is super simple. And again, because of that MCP and because your agent can simply read the documentation, it can set all of this up for you with ease. Again, the higher model that you do use, the better you're going to get a chance of getting a better outcome. But it's so simple. Even if you didn't use a model, right, you can go straight to the documentation. They have tons of examples. And like I said, it's little snippets. The majority of that demo code base is actually just around the UI and setting things up, for example, for Convex. But the actual usage of this SDK is tiny. So you can see this right here. Incredibly simple. They also have ways that you can test. So you can run unit tests, for example, with their mock APIs and SDKs. So you can go ahead and use their Jest framework for that. It's incredibly easy. And one of my top tips I'd recommend is if you ever get stuck, for example, in your SDK that you're trying to implement this for, come to the documentation. And often what I do when I'm working with an agent is I'll either copy the URL, so the entire URL, and give it to an agent, or lots of pages now have this copy markdown button. Simply copy the markdown and paste it into your agent, and it will give it the entire context. I find that this is really handy, especially what I did in this case was when I wanted to do a sanity check throughout my entire app, I went to all the relevant pages. So for example, Next.js integration, copied that, went to, for example, best practices, SDK best practices, copied this page, and I simply pasted these all into my agent. So if I go over to my Claude code, I would basically paste these all over into it. And you can see that it pastes the entire documentation inside. And then I would simply add on to the end, make sure I've implemented everything correctly. Now, what's really cool about this is for this demo, install the Convex CLI plus the Sent.dm MCP and ask it to use the latest documentation. It can set the entire thing up for you, including your webhooks, including your templates. Yes, the templates we created earlier, the agent can actually create all of that using the MCP and also the API. So this is nuts, guys, when I tell you that you can actually get the agent to set the entire thing up for you. And of course, the main reason I wanted to shoot this video more so as well is because I think it was really important just to showcase a couple of top tips that I used and also just the workflow that I tend to implement these days when it comes to implementing tech like this. And there we have it, guys, the entire demo. All you need to do is go ahead and pull it, try it for yourself. Let me know down below in the comments if you want me to go deeper on any of these topics. But I would highly recommend as well, once you get started, something that will really kind of make the entire video click is when you come over to this page on the activity screen. So what I want you to do is when you get it all working, go down and have a look. So for example, here you can see a ton of success, failed ones, for example. If I go check out a verification code here, you can see the cost of the verification code, okay? So in this case, this was a WhatsApp, right? So 0.220. And I'm not sure exactly why it didn't charge me here, but if you can see for some of these, it actually doesn't charge me much at all. So I believe this could be something to do with Sent.dm's setup. However, this is something I've definitely noticed because I've done tons of SMS work before in the past. And when I have come to use SMSs, you'll find that they tend to be more expensive. So if we just compared, for example, look, this outbound SMS, right, to the UK, this one was 0.0554. Okay, so basically 5 pence. Whereas if we check against a WhatsApp message here, we can see a WhatsApp message is much, much cheaper at 0.220. And this is really the reason why I would highly recommend you use Sent.dm, because quite frankly, it just makes so much sense. If somebody has WhatsApp, you should be sending it to the WhatsApp more than the SMS. And again, if they don't read it or the deliverability doesn't go through, it can push through to SMS as a fallback. And there we have it, guys. The link to the GitHub is in the description. Go copy it for yourself. And like I said, go ahead and get your plan written up. Check through everything. Make sure that the webhooks are included so that we can get a full run through. And also when you're actually setting up the project, like I mentioned before, go ahead and check out the entire README file, because I have included a ton of information on how to get everything up and running. You guys can feel free to give it an entire read for yourself, but effectively it's going to give you a breakdown of the entire multi-channel, auto routing, all of that stuff, including the delivery cycle. So remember the live delivery life cycle through the webhooks. And I've of course included both options, a fast setup with your AI agent versus a manual setup if you really want to do it yourself. Okay, so feel free to let me know. And also, just moving forward with these videos, let me know, do you prefer the AI agent tutorials or do you prefer a manual setup tutorial? And as always, guys, it's your boy Sunny. I hope you enjoyed this one. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.